Welcome to Watercolor Studio 42, and today I'm going to start off a little bit to show you a little bit of what happened from last week's landscape picture that I was working on. So a lot of times this happens with watercolor. When the colors dry out overnight, they get a lot lighter. So I knew that I had this mountain area. In this area had to be more contrasting, so it's got to be a little darker purple. And maybe the mountains, they're a little bit, the white caps of the mountains here, they're almost a little bit too much the same color as the sky. So there's two things I'm going to do. I'm going to darken in here, and I'll do the sky. I'll do the sky first. Make that a little deeper blue. So having said that, I usually start off with a larger brush, and we'll use this one. This is a 1/2 inch flat. And what I'm going to do is wet the sky right around where the mountain contour of the mountains are, and we'll wet this area in through here. We don't have to probably do the whole thing. Now I'm going to take some of that blue that I have, this cerulean blue, and we're just going to make that a little deeper color, and we're just going to put that in right across here. Kind of follow the contour of the mountains here, and see if we can bring out a little bit more contrast. Now what I did last week with this particular picture also, and I did mention it, that I drew the lines a little bit darker with a marker so that they would show up. Sometimes if you do a sketch in pencil, it doesn't show up as well as if you worked on it with a marker. So see, I'm bringing out the contrast of the mountains. Now normally, the sky always looks a little bit lighter as you look down eye level, because you're looking through the density of the air. But as you look further up, it tends to be bluer because there's a little bit less, density of the air quality that you have to look through. So let's just outline this a little bit more, right up and through here. Now when I do this, I have to be careful that I kind of stay a little bit off of the contour of the mountains. Just kind of make it a little bit contrast. Now if I get a little bit of the blue, a little bit too much blue onto the mountain, I can always blot that before it dries. Here you go. Pat that down. Then I have to take the blue and kind of pull it across here, so it looks like it's supposed to be that way. You can't leave it kind of isolated. There we go. Just pull that right across. So that darker blue brings out the snow cap on the mountain. You can even go a little deeper than what I have with it, but that's one way of emphasizing that. Let's blot that. Yeah, something like that. Now pull this right off. Kind of pull towards the edge. I removed the tape, so I have to be careful I don't go into that artificial mat that I've created there by leaving the tape on. Okay, now I've got to mix up a darker, really a deeper blue or a deeper purple, so that I bring out the contrast of this mountain in the foreground. So let's take a little bit more blue, put it out in here. And we're just going to take a little bit of that, it's really alizarin crimson. They call it quinacridone rose. That's another color for alizarin crimson. And we'll just make that a little bit deeper here. Bring that out over here. Okay, you have to be careful. Stay away from that edge here. Now, again, you have to kind of stay within the contour of the in this case, I used marker, but normally I would do that in pencil. So you want to make this a little bit deeper through here. And let's fill this in up in here. Okay, that might make a difference. It probably, I probably have to tone down that purple a little bit more. And I'm going to use some of my Payne's Gray for that. Let's go off over in here, have that disappear down into the foreground. This gets a little bit sort of flat into there too. But see, automatically you bring out more of the contrast there between the two areas of the mountains. This is supposed to be probably more in the foreground. But that gives you an idea. Now you can take, if you had a piece of plastic, you can take a piece of plastic and you can kind of cut through this, or you can take the brush and sort of pinch the brush out and just lift some of the paint if you want to bring out some more highlight in there. But that does make a difference in the contrast. This is one layer of the purple, but you can go over it with several layers of different shades. That's the beauty of watercolor. You can keep layering it and building up the color, the contrast that you want. Now, you take a little bit of your, if I can find one, here you go, Payne's Gray. Let's put a little bit of Payne's Gray in here. And we're going to take some of that and mix it in with the color that I have. This is going to make your purple quite a bit darker in through here, okay? So again, that can be another layer that you can build up. Put some of this down into here, where it would be kind of more in the shadow. Right around into here. See how you can build up the contrast there of the color. I wanted to emphasize this so that a lot of times, you know, when you do a painting, it looks all right when it's wet, and then you put it away and look at it the next day. Oh boy, I got to give that another coat. Either make it lighter or make it darker. But in most cases, it's always. I think you always have to make something a little darker rather than to make it lighten it up. So you can work these different shades in there with the Payne's Gray mixed into the purple. I'd make it a little bit darker down around in the lower part where the light can't get to it. You know, sunlight that doesn't get into the lower portions of anything. Whatever you have, a plant or a tree with leaves, and the sunlight doesn't get in there underneath part. See how that brings that out? Now, you can work a little bit if you want. You could touch up maybe some little places in here. Now I'm using a little bit of the purple because I wanted to carry some of that color off over into here. You know, sometimes you repeat that shade or color. You can put that in somewhere else in the picture. Carries it, okay? And even in here, it looks a little bit kind of washed out. You can kind of just stipple that a little bit and put some more texture back into this picture. Okay, let's say if I have purple and I'm hitting the orange, well, that can turn your purple more into brown. Browny shades in there, darker shades. So you could just stipple that around a little bit. So anyways, that does make probably, hopefully, a little bit of a difference. You really need that contrast in here, and you need more of a contrast between the sky color and the snow cap of the mountains. So this is one we worked on from last time. I'm just going to see if we can put it back up there. There you go. But see, you needed that contrast between this section of the mountains and the ones that are further back. It still could use a little bit more work, but I'm not going to spend too much time on that today. Now, this is a street scene. Now, a lot of times when I'm outdoors and I'm sketching, you see an awful lot. You see everything. You're seeing so much texture. So you have to sometimes squint and kind of bring out some of the emphasis is where the shadows are. You know, where the light's coming in, what side the light's coming in. So I did this. I did this very quick with a pencil, and then I've taken a ruler. I take my handy ruler, something like this, and I make all the straight edges. Now, the buildings, any man-made object, for the most part, has real clean-cut straight edges. But Mother Nature, that's where all the curves and the irregularities come in. And so you can use a ruler when you're working on man-made objects, anything, any kind of a house, doghouse or whatever might be, any type of a building structure, you can use a straight edge. But then when you get to the other things, you can kind of do that freehand and make the branches and the trees a little bit puffier. I'll just emphasize that a little bit. Let's say you take your marker, I put them aside over here somewhere. Okay, you can take your marker. Now, if you want to show a little bit of some curvy lines, this is where you can put some of that in when you do some of the trees, the textures of some of the trees in your picture, whatnot. You put a shrub or bushes in here, and you could do that with a marker. So things in nature, you can use curvy shapes and sharp shapes or whatever, bend the shapes and whatnot, and you can do that freehand. But the man-made objects, you got to kind of keep the edges a little bit straighter. Now, this could be a little bit of a street. Whether you're going to put little figures in there, you can a little bit later. I usually save the figures towards the end if you want to put something else in the picture. Now, if it's an outdoor picture, I start and I put the wash in first. You can use your use the blue that you put out, and I'm just going to wet the what's going to be the sky. I always wet the paper for the sky because I don't want to leave too many brush strokes in it. Now, some artists have a style that everything's sort of textured. When I think of the sky pictures, I think of Van Gogh's Starry Night. All those, sort of brush strokes that he put in there for texture. Okay, so I think we got enough there. So let's drop some glue into this. Push some of the blue around. Now, when I paint, I keep everything sort of loose if I can, and I always start off with a big brush. I stick with the big brush as long as I can when I'm doing a picture. Yeah, you can get that sky in there. Now, my brush probably, I don't know, I picked up a little bit. It's sort of not a sort of a soft blue. It's sort of a heavier purple color today. I can use some of that. If you want to show a little bit of the background, the ocean, you can put that in there somewhere down along through here. Let me put that in just to remind myself. Probably right, you can look through the buildings, probably see the water line somewhere in there. Somewhere in there, yeah. Just to remind myself. Okay, now, most of the houses that you see are lighter shades because, of course, white reflects some of the sunlight, the heat, and all your darker colors absorb a lot of heat. You can notice that sometimes in the summertime, you know, when you touch the roof on your car, if it's a darker color, it really feels really quite hot. Somebody said the other day they fried some eggs on the hood of the car. It was that warm, but I haven't tried that yet. Now you could put a little bit of this color in for the street if you want. We can use some of that Payne's gray there, and the road can kind of go around the bend. There you go. See, with watercolor, you want to be able to paint a little bit more relaxed if you can. It doesn't have to be real, you know, don't get uptight about it at all. Just kind of drop some paint in and take your brush and push it around. Could be an asphalt street, you know. This is a typical scene that you might see in any city that has a hill that goes down to the waterfront. New Bedford has that. I think Fall River has some streets that kind of go towards the ocean. So that's why this kind of goes that way. It's a little bit down the hill. Okay. Now, when you put the tape down, you can go right to the tape. And I put the tape on so to create a false matte on my artwork. Now, if it looks okay for now, I just leave it. You can leave a little bit of highlight in there if you want, for now. And usually what I do is go right across the bottom, make that a little bit darker so it has a foundation for the rest of the picture. You may not want to see too much white in there, so I'll just take some of that out of there, soften it out. Otherwise it looks like puddles. Might be puddles on the road. Okay. I don't want to overwork it. I like it to be look more relaxed, you know, type of thing. So now I have to decide the colors I'm going to make some of the buildings, and this is a good opportunity to repeat some of the colors throughout the composition. Kind of pulls everything together a little bit more. I thought I had a yellow in here somewhere. No. I don't know if I have some. No, not still in the bag. Okay, well, we'll have to wing it. Maybe that's the one I'm looking for. It looks like the one that's there. Well, anyways, this is going to be a little bit more orangey, but that's okay. We can make it a soft orange. You don't want to get too carried away with color. So now you can decide what buildings you want to have that shade of color. You can put some of that in. Okay. Now if you want to make it lighter, you can just take the brush and pull some of that color. See if it's too bright here, you could pull some of that color out. Then we can take that same color and repeat it somewhere else. Maybe something, another house in here, 1, 2, maybe 3. Might be that shade, okay? Now, some buildings are going to have some cast shadow, so you have to decide where you want the light to be. So I'm going to put some more color into this one. I just repeat the color somewhere else. You know, just to kind of pull everything together. Okay. All right. Now you can add more lines in there. You can put in some more tighter shapes in there. If you want to put some more houses in, you could take your marker, take the marker, and add another house off there somewhere over in here. Put the rooftop on if you want. Things like that, okay? Now, you might want to put some land off in the distance. So we can take some of our blue. I wish I had my yellow, so I can make sort of more of a bluish color. Like that. I don't know what I did with that. What I do sometimes is I take all my colors out, and for some reason they get mixed up with something else. So anyhow, so now if you want to make some of the buildings sort of a reddish color, I think I've got some red there, but I'm going to use this one here, a little brighter color. Now they don't have to be very dark, just a pinkish color. So you might want to take a little bit of the red, stir it around in one of these wells here, and make it a little bit lighter, you know, sort of a kind of a pinkish color. That's not too bad. Let's repeat some of that in here, maybe some of that color over here. You could have some color in the background there, whatever it might be. Improvise a little bit here. So we'll put some color in there. Here we go. Yeah, distribution of that color. Do we want to put some green in? Sure, why not? Again, if I don't have some yellow and I don't have a tube of green, my trees are going to look a little bit different. They're going to look a little bit different. So let's see what I can do. I don't know. Here's some orange. Take some blue. I don't know what color I'm going to get here. Might not be green, I'll tell you that. No. Well, we could put some, maybe some neutral color there for some of the textures of the trees. And we'll put some color up in here. I don't know what happened to the yellow. But yellow's, oh, look at that. I just found it. It was tipped upside down here. Now we got the yellow back. Now we can take and make some more green, real green, I think. See if we can get some green in here. I don't know. It's always funny when I try to do colors sometimes. I'm trying to demonstrate something. Oh, this color mixed together with something else, you know. Well, I'm starting to get some green back. How's that? Okay. Sprinkle some of that back here. Okay. Put some green down in here. Some bushes in the yard, you know, that type of thing. Everybody has to have some flower gardens. Whatever. Okay, that makes a big difference, doesn't it? Getting the green back. I knew I had a yellow there somewhere, but it was hiding a little bit. Okay, get some green back. Now, I'm using a bigger brush. You don't have to stick with the same size brush. Maybe, I don't know, maybe off in the distance, the land, you might do something across here, you know, get some land in there. It's not too bad. Oops, let's go. Okay, now what I do sometimes, I take a smaller brush. Somewhere I got a little tiny thin brush here. And I just stipple a little bit to create a little bit more texture. Okay. Oh, we use it. No, that's not the one. Oh, hiding, that little one. Okay, now you can take some of that and you can just stipple around if you want to make more texture. Like leaves on the tree type of thing. See how you can stipple with the brush. Especially the bushes or something in the foreground. Okay, something like that. Maybe a little bit of color in here. Add a little bit more. Now, some of the buildings, if you want to put some other color in there, I was just wondering, my house is a very soft blue. I don't know if you want to put too much blue in there, but we probably could add a little bit of blue in it. Something back there. That's a little bit strong. So just blot that out a little bit. Take some of that color out of it. Okay. I don't know what some of these things can be, but it's just getting some color back in there. If it's a little bit too much, I just take a cleaner piece of towel and just blot some of that down, lighten it up a bit. This might be a little bit much in there. Okay, so now some of those buildings, they can have maybe more yellow to them also. Might be a little bit more yellow in here. Distribution of color. Something else back here. Could have some yellow in there. Even this one here, if you want to put some more yellow rather than sort of orange, you can give that another coat. You know, add some color into that. If you do it in one place, though, you have to find another spot for it. Now that bothers me, that blue there, so let's soften that out. I'm going to hide that a little bit more, maybe tame it down a little, hide it with some green in that area. Okay, now the roofs themselves, they can be sort of grayish color, or, you know, a little bit of shading there for the roof. Maybe a little bit of texture. I'm using some of that Payne's gray. I think I need a different brush, so let's try one of these. There you go, that's better. Okay, we'll put a little bit of color in there. There you go. You could still leave some highlight in the roof if you want. Wiggle some of that out. Quiet it down, blot it down a little bit. Even when you're painting kind of loose, you still have to have some control, a little bit more control of what you're trying to do. I know some painters say they paint like it's almost hand scratching. That's the best way to describe it. Okay, maybe this roof can have a little bit of color. Yeah. Okay, a little bit more color in here. Now, if you want to bring out a little bit more of the ocean, the water, I put a little bit of a line across here just to remind myself that could be water off there somehow. It's a little bit dark there. You could have that show through. Right now it doesn't look too much like the ocean. Take some of that color out of it. I try to make it a little more of a bluish color. I don't want to make it the same color as the asphalt road. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to work or not. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Okay, now I did something up in here. I'm not quite sure whether that should be a tree or what. It's kind of high up in there. If I'm not quite sure, sometimes I just take it out. I just use some white acrylic and just take some of that out of there. I'm not quite sure what that loop around is. So, having said that, take a little bit of white. I always put some white out anyway for touch-up. Just a drop or two. And if you want to take that loop out of there, we'll just white it out. It's disappearing. And once you do something like that, you just make that white, kind of shape it like a cloud. And you put, see, there's another. We can make that look like a cloud in there, but you just have to soften the edges. So that's how you hide a few things. See, what you do a lot of times is that if you use something to cover up something else, you just add a little bit more of that same texture or paint up into the sky, so everybody thinks, well, he intended it to be that way. He wasn't trying to hide some little loop that he did with a marker. It's supposed to be that way. Just add some more texture in the sky. Now, we could do some other work down here. I'm just wondering if I can't make this look like more of a picket fence, if I put some more lines in there. Right into here, make that look like a fence. Now, when you do that, you have to kind of pull it down more, so it doesn't look like a clothesline. I think probably I might have overemphasized those lines. So, having said that, here's where you can touch up the fence. Put some white in it. You can kind of make, take out some of those lines and just be more suggestive with the picket fence type of thing. If that looks too busy, sometimes I just hide it a little bit. You could put a little shrub in there or have something growing on the fence or over the fence. Just put some little dots in there. Make it look like it's supposed to be, sometimes plants and things grow up over the fence. So you can kind of texture that out a little bit. Now over here, we could do a little bit more with the color along the sidewalk here. It could be a dirt path. It doesn't have to be cement or asphalt or whatever. But if you have too much white, then the picture starts looking like it might be snow. So you have to kind of hide some of that, fill some of the white in. With bushes, fence, whatever you might need there to kind of fill that in with some texture. Okay. Now, this looks a little bit heavy right here. We'll just wet that. Take a clean piece of paper towel. I think I can blot that a little bit. Take some of that out of there. That lightens it up quite a little bit in there. Now once you do that, you want to kind of take your brush and kind of put some texture back in there. Just stipple a little bit with the brush. And you can put some of that back in there. Okay? Now, there's always a way of sharpening up your picture. Like this looks a bit light in here, right? So you have to figure out, oh, I've got to put something back in there. Well, we can put some more of the ocean water into that area. We could do a lot more with that. Fill that in with the water. You can have, off in the distance, you might have put a boat in there, or just kind of fill this in. So again, it doesn't look like it's just too much white. So you just take some of the white out, soften that in. Break this up a little bit more in here. Now, again, one of these types of pictures, sometimes you paint it and it looks good, but the next morning you look at it like I did with this one over there, it's in back of me, you see that it needs something else. It needs some contrast or texture or something in there. So those are things you can always put in a little bit later. I'm not quite sure. I think I'm going to extend the water. I'm going to put this over in here more. Move up the line a little bit. Have it fill in across here. Way off in there somewhere. Whoops. And when it looks like the water's going uphill, so I have to be careful about that. I don't want to make it look like everything's going uphill. So what I have to do is just take some of that out of there, soften that out, and take some of this and don't make it look quite as streaky. Maybe I can pull that up a little bit more too. Straighten it out across there more. I don't know if it still looks going uphill. I'll have to put the mat on it. It's kind of just a mat. Okay. I've done that before too. I I think I did a lighthouse one time, so the lighthouse looked like it was chipped. So when I put the mat on, I just turned the mat so it looked like the lighthouse was straight again. You know, you have to kind of jimmy these things around a little bit. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes you can take it out. Now, if that looks too much in there, you could put back, maybe let it dry more. You could probably put back some land back off over in here somewhere. You know, fill that in up in there. This looks a little bit too white in here, so we want to see if we can make that with some color back in here. Probably the street looks like it could use a little bit more texture. Good place to put some color back into the street too. You could kind of add a little bit of something in that. Probably not that much. You don't want to make it look like grass is going in there. Yeah. Now there's one particular area that jumps out, you just can soften it out a little bit more. There's always these little touch-ups. You can add another window. You can let it dry a little bit, and you can put, you can use your marker again and put more texture, more windows and doors in on the buildings. Okay. I'm going to carry it over. Let's put a little bit more of this color up in here. Not quite sure what I want this to be. I'm probably supposed to be a tree in the more in the foreground here. Maybe in here somewhere. Okay. What's happening up in here? Now what you can do, if you're not sure what's going on up there, use a little bit more white again, hide some of that. Makes that look like another cloud cutting through here. Touch it up a bit. That's a little bit too much. Sometimes when you go towards the edge, I think what happens, we stop too soon and we leave a spot kind of empty. But you know, we can always put something in there. Bushes, kind of finish it off towards the edge. Even, you can have it lighter so it fades away too. Into here. This is a number 4 brush. It works pretty well. It's a round 4. Okay. Okay, always something you can touch up. Fill in a little bit more down here. You know, when it starts kind of filling in a little bit more. Sometimes I don't know exactly what's going to happen up in here, so I might have to let that dry out and look at it tomorrow. See what else I can do with it. Now all these colors are going to dry out. They're going to be a little bit lighter. And I certainly could put some of the yellow back in. You might want to put some more yellow back in some of these buildings. Distribution of the color. Kind of jump around a little bit. Okay, a little bit over here. Now, you could put little figures in there if you want to put people in. Or whatever. Okay, now, I don't know if I've put enough white up in here or not. Maybe some of my markers showing through. And you always touch it up. Okay. Always some little touch-ups that you could do with your work. Now, because I've got this white around here, I've got to make sure that some of this is going to be filled in near the edges. So I'm just going to make sure that the paint's going right to the tape here, down here. Fill some of that in. Use some of this color here. Go right to the edge. So that when you pull the tape off, you get a nice clean edge and you get a contrast between make sure you get some color there. Fill that in a little bit. Same way over here. Let's get some color in there. So yeah, we could do some more texture in here, put another something else in here. Okay, I'm not quite sure what that's doing out there. Looks like almost a windmill. That's another thing I can touch up. I don't know quite what it's supposed to look like. I guess we got most of the side edges filled in here. So now, oh, wait a minute. I gotta do it around the top here. It's gotta be white going to the top here. Yeah, fill that in more. Now, let's go back to my big brush. I don't know if I need that one. Maybe this is okay. Bigger brush. All right. Let's wet the brush and just pull this down. Right down into the middle of the sky here. Whoops. I uncovered that mark. Put some white back there to hide that cloud. Or a pencil mark. Okay. I think we got everything pretty well filled in to the edge. Okay. Now, this can use a lot more fussy stuff, but I'm going to just let it dry out. And we could figure out a little bit what we want to do with it in some of the other areas. I don't want too much of the paper showing through, you know, by the time we finish up. Fill in some of that. Even if it's just an off color, just so you hide some of the white of the paper. This could use more color here to fill that in. Probably needs a little bit more pink in here. Oops, that's a little bit too much. Yeah, it's a spot. Okay. So anyways, this is okay for now, but we have to kind of strengthen up some of the color in there after it dries out a bit. Or maybe even take out. So if it looks like it's too flat, I kind of just work something else into it. So we'll take off some tape here and you can get a better look at it. I don't want to get that, it's still wet there. Okay. I try to put this on here so I can remove it in a easier, I don't know. See what I can do. Here we go. We'll get it started going around. There you go. Okay, make sure my hands aren't too much paint. Ooh, that's a tough one. Got that tape around the back a little bit much. Boy. Ah, there we go. I got a little bit of pink in the sky. Ugh. Okay, so I created this little mat with masking tape. You can make it a little bit wider around there if you use a wider tape. But anyways, oh, I got some pink up there. I don't know. I could leave it there, but I'm going to white it out and make it look like it's a cloud. There you go. Okay, whatever, touch up. All right, now, this is a little bit off to a start here. But anyways, this will dry out. Everything's going to be a little bit lighter. So, and I might have to go back and kind of bump up the texture here and there. If there's too much of a repetition of something, you know, too much of the fence posts or whatever, we can alleviate some of that. But the idea is to distribute the color and also to create an interesting texture. So that's probably a typical street scene a little bit. You'd probably spend a little bit more time with the buildings, you know, putting in probably more windows and doors. But that's something that you can always add, because you can put that in after the paint dries. You can add whatever you want with a marker on top of that. But that just gives you an idea of how you can kind of work these colors in. And one thing you don't want to do is get too fussy and too tight with the paint. And probably one of the better ways to avoid being too tight, sometimes use a larger brush, and that way you can't get too fussy, because the brush doesn't get into all these little fuzzy areas. So sometimes using a larger brush, and then if there's some little fine touch-up, then you can go back towards the end, and then you can always do something else with it. So until next time, whoops, brushes up, and we'll see you next time again. Okay, thanks for being with us.